Erev Shabbos, everyone. Parshas Chayesara, very special parsha to me personally. It's my bar mitzvah parsha. It's my son Aiden's bar mitzvah parsha. He's laning right now, tomorrow, I guess, in Hebron on Shabbos. We should all be there soon, make a big pilgrimage to the place that was purchased at the beginning of this week's parsha. But I want to go further. Classic Avraham doesn't focus on the past. He focuses on the present and the future, the next generation. And he sends Eliezer, his servant, to go and find a wife for Yitzchak. And he says, Lo tikach isha livni mibno haknani. You cannot promise me that you cannot take a wife, find a wife for my son from the Canaanite women. You need to go to my birthplace, to where I'm from. Go to Padan Aram. Go further, in the region from where I came from. And that's where you'll find an appropriate wife for my son. And the question Rev Avram Borenstein asks, the Sukkot Rebbe says, is, what's the difference? What's the difference between these two? Neither of them are like B'nai Brit. They're not like godly. They're not people that are connected to spirituality, to monotheism, etc. They're halalu avdei avodah zara v'halalu avdei avodah zara. They're both idolaters. They're both pagans. Both of those cultures. What's the difference? So they could have gotten, a Canaanite woman. Eliezer, who was destroyed, he himself wanted to marry in to Avram's family. But no, Avram said no. You know why? Says the Sukkot Rebbe, because the Canaanites were known not only for their lack of belief in monotheism, for their idolatry, they were known for their being mushchatim. They were corrupt. They were unethical. They were insensitive. Their culture was an unkind culture. It was might makes right. It was survival of the fittest. They would just step all over you. They didn't care about you or the people around them. They only cared about themselves. Whereas Abraham's family, says the Sukkot, yeah, maybe they didn't, they weren't the most religious people, right? They were looking for love in all the wrong places. They had the wrong notion of God. So yeah, they had idols, whatever, but at their core, they were good people. They had good midos. They had positive character traits. They were kind. They were sensitive. And we learned something incredible from here. And I've spoken about this many years ago in various sermons, but I oft repeat it. This is a principle of Judaism we can never forget. Goodness leads to godliness. Person says, I want to be a good person, Rabbi. Amazing. Because being a good person is fertile ground for that good person to become a godly person. You cannot become a godly person. You cannot become close to God, someone who represents Judaism, Torah in our people, if you're not a good person. But the flip side is, if you're good, like Rivka was, Bala Chesed, person who cares about others, who's kind, who's sensitive, who's giving of themselves, who's selfless, well then we can teach godliness. The godliness grows from there. May we all be zoche to be thoroughly good, and God willing, may that lead us to be thoroughly godly. Have a great Shabbos.